What is up, comic fan? I'm Mark, and this is Legion of Comics, and we're about to take a comic close-up of Action Comics #1. But first, check this out. If you're in the market for any exclusive variants, be sure to check out BigTimeCollectibles.com. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook. If you need any books cleaned or pressed, check out Justin's Comics over on Instagram for as little as $10 a book. He can take care of you. Be sure to use that promo code WeAreLegion and take advantage of that buy two, get one free special we have running right now. All right, guys, so I'm really excited. I really should have started this series with this video because this is what started it all. Like I mentioned before, today we're going to take a comic close-up of Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, the one who started it all. So really, this is the godfather of all superhero comics. So it goes back all the way to June of 1938 with two guys, Jerome Siegel, who could become known as Jerry Siegel, and Joe Shuster. This was a creation of theirs that didn't start as a superhero. Originally, they worked together on a short story called Reign of the Superman, where a mad scientist had these telepathic powers. And this just didn't really pick up. They did obviously some changes on it and updated it, and they turned it in, and it got picked up by National Allied Publications, a predecessor to DC Comics that Jack Leibowitz was putting out at the time. So he didn't really believe in this story. He didn't really have any faith in it, but he was on a time clock. So he took their story, threw it at the front pages of this anthology book, put it out, and slapped the name on it, put it on the cover, and changed the history of books for their own. Like, he had no idea what was to ensue after that. So getting right to it, like I mentioned, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster are the co-creators of Superman, and there they are when they're younger as well as older, standing there looking cool as a fan, still in their ripe old age. But Superman pushed on really fast. He picked up super quick, and as early as 1941 he was already on radios all over the United States, with Bud Collyer doing the voice of the character himself. And this was huge. It picked up instantly. And as soon as televisions popped, they immediately had a Superman animated show from the Fleischer Brothers, where Bud Collyer did the voice of Superman himself as well. And this is actually when Superman began to fly. He did not fly originally, which you'll see here soon when we flip through the pages of this book. But he leapt tall buildings. He ran really fast. But in this show, they reached out to DC and asked if they were allowed to make him fly because it would look more dynamic and more interesting for the comic. Lo and behold, Superman's flight was born. And then right after that, a few years later, the first time we saw Superman in live action was with Kirk Alyn's movie Serial. So it was a chapter. It was episodic chapters before you go see a feature film. And Kurt Alyn here played the Man of Steel himself. And then he went on to play him in his own feature film called Adaman versus Superman until 1951, when really like the big icons took over at the time was George Reeves' Superman. This was the household name that really brought Superman to everybody, because not only did he play in the movie Superman and the Mole Men, but he took the TV show from 1952 to 1958, where every kid everywhere was watching it. George Reeves was everyone's Superman at that time. Until 1978, everything changed again, not for comics, but for cinema, when Christopher Reeve stepped up and played the Man of Steel. Like, he is still the embodiment of Superman. That is my Superman right there. And it was crazy. Like, the whole tagline for the films was, "You're going to believe a man can fly." And going back and looking at it, the special effects are what they are. But at the time, and even for me today, it still just blows my mind. So this film was so successful, they brought in Marlon Brando as well as Christopher Reeve there. And it did so well that it made three subsequent movies. So you had 4 films total. And this was produced by the Salkind brothers. And because of its popularity, they went on to produce a television show and did Superboy, the early years of it, where we had two different actors play Superboy over the 3 or 4 seasons that it ran for. But it wasn't until the 1990s when Superman would dominate primetime again, when Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain came in for the New Adventures of Lois and Clark. And this was another one that changed the name of the game for comics, because this was when the famous wedding happened between Lois and Clark, and it really spawned from the TV show to the comics. And it wasn't long after this that those early years were wanted again by the fans out there, and WB picked it up and brought us 10 seasons straight of Smallville, where we saw the early ages of Clark Kent all the way up until the moment that he puts on the Superman suit. And Smallville is still a popular show till this day, and it set the stage for what would become the Arrowverse down the road. Once this ran its course, soon it was over, Stephen Amell stepped in and we got the Arrowverse. So it was really the foundation for WB and the CW to really feel that they can do something more with these superheroes and build a large universe. And in the midst of this coming out back in 2003 or something like that, I think it was 2006, might have been 2006, Brandon Routh stepped in for the Superman Returns, where this was they went back and kind of played it like it was the original Superman 3, like it fit between 2 and 3. And it was a good performance by Brandon Routh. It was the special effects were great. It just really didn't land with all audiences. But Brandon Routh was well received enough that CW brought him back in to their Arrowverse as Superman after he's already playing a different character. It wasn't until, in my opinion, 2006, when Henry Cavill took over the role, that we got another Superman on par with what Chris Reeves must have been like. But this is still our Superman till today. This is still the one we're rocking with, and can't wait to see if he gets another shot on the big screen. Now, in between all these shows, all these movies, there have been countless animated versions of Superman, from Super Friends to the Ruby Spears animated show to numerous DC Universe animated feature films to the Adventures of Superman that ran throughout the 90s. So he's nonstop in media one way or another. He doesn't go away anywhere. And currently right now we have Superman and Lois on the CW with Tyler Hoechlin or something like that, which has just been fantastic as well. But before we go any farther, let's go ahead and look at Action Comics #1 for a comic close-up. So the specific edition that we'll be looking at today is Action Comics #1, the Millennium Edition. And I chose this specific edition because out of all of the reprints that they've done, this one is a 100% reproduction. It includes all of the other short stories that were included and not just the Superman story. It's also the smart one to choose value-wise. While all of these are reprints, they do hold a lot of value, not just sentimentally to me, but monetarily. They're not cheap books anymore. And this one is probably one of the most easily accessible ones for the value. And this one was actually donated to me by none other than Nick's Kicks and Comics. So let's take a look inside Action Comics #1. So right off the bat, you see that they start out with Krypton, first panel, first page. So it credits the creators, Jerome Siegel, Joe Shuster. It goes from Krypton immediately through space to Earth as a kid. Back in the day, comics definitely told stories, but they told them at a lot faster pace. So within the first few panels, it explains his birth, his travel to Earth, his powers, and then you're already to him being a superhero. A lot of this had to do with this book specifically. They didn't feel that this story was going to take off. There wasn't a lot of faith in the character at the time, but little did they know what would come next. So it was interesting down here. They give Superman his powers basically by saying it's just all alien. So on Krypton, when kids grow to maturity, they're just stronger. And they kind of liken it to ants or grasshoppers that can leap high and lift things way beyond their own body weight. So they kind of give you a little science lesson in there. They didn't miss the moment to kind of teach you something. So right off the bat, the story takes off going 100 miles an hour. Superman already has somebody bound and tied up, leaping through the air, and he's racing to a governor's mansion where he's not greeted with a very welcome response by his butler. He breaks his way in. He runs up the stairs with the butler in hand, who was not just letting him in, threatens him that this is as far as you'll go. You can't get through the steel door. and Superman takes it down and lets the governor know that he has a signed confession from a killer and that the woman on death row has been falsely accused. The butler, trying to be a do-gooder, attempts to save the day, not knowing that Superman is not a menace, fires on him, and that's where we first learn that Superman can not only jump high, has super strength, but he has really tough skin. So basically, the governor calls in right at the nick of time, saves the woman on death row, and the next day, the papers are reporting the woman being saved, and everybody is at the governor's office is happy to feel that there's a Superman out there who is on the side of law and order. Then we cut over to the Daily Star that later down the road will be renamed the Daily Planet, but he goes in to see Chief, who's called by name. So there's our first appearance of Chief. You know, he's always been the man behind the desk, the boss at the Daily Planet, and he gives him the assignment of keeping up with what's going on with this Superman. Clark quickly gets a call that there's a wife abuser in progress. So Superman rushes there where the guy looks like he's belting his wife, takes the guy up against the wall, and the guy faints at the how strong his skin is when he tries to stab him with a knife. Then the police show up, and Clark had changed clothes just in time. Fast forward again, the fast pace of these old books, we get our first appearance of none other than Lois Lane, where Clark asks her out on a date, and she gives him a break and she goes. And then that's where we meet Butch. Butch is the star of the cover, pretty much. So Butch cuts in for a dance. Lois ain't having none of it. So right from the jump, she was a very strong female character. She tells him no, tells Clark to kick rocks for not standing up to her, slaps Butch in the face, and leaves both of the guys at the roadhouse, as it is referred to. But Butch doesn't want to end it there. He chases her down, runs her off the road, kidnaps her, and thought he was going to get away with whatever he had planned. But Superman is there nonetheless, leaps over the car, runs at super speed and catches up with it, shakes them all out, and there's the iconic shot from the cover. After he shakes them all out of the car, he crashes it on the rocks, and old Butch right there made the cover and the page. So that was cool. It's not the same image. They had to draw that image twice to pull that off. But he goes and gets Butch, jumps up, hangs him on the top of a telephone pole. Lois is in awe, takes her home. She tries to report it to Chief the next day. He's not having none of it. So she doesn't give Clark the time of day. Chief then gives Clark the assignment to go down and be a correspondent in South America where stuff's getting weird. So Clark goes down there, classic lobbyists and politicians that are crooked. Clark gets a word on who it could be, so he goes and listens in, and he tries to get some more intel on it, the dirty dealings that could ruin the government. So Clark goes and cuts the lobbyists off to try to figure out who's backing the lobbyists, and he won't tell him. He tells him to let go of his hand, and he said, "Fine, your foot will do just fine." Grabs him by the foot, leaps on the telephone wires, and threatens him to being electrocuted to death if he were to merely touch the telephone poles. So as he's hopping over him, he's teasing the guy, "Oops, almost touched that pole." And he takes him straight to the Capitol where he leaps, and that's where it leaves us hanging until the next issue. So I thought this was really cool that they tell you that this is the only place that you can find Superman in the pages of Action Comics. He's a physical marvel, a mental wonder. Superman is destined to reshape the destiny of the world, and little did they know how true those words would be. So that was it for the Superman story, but they also had cowboy stories included, Zatara the Master Magician included, the South Sea Strategy, Marco Polo was in here, Scoop Scallion, Tex Thompson. So there was just a whole variety of stories in here. And that was pretty much it for Action Comics issue number 1. So as you see, there was a lot in that book. Superman was all over the place. There was tons of first appearances from Perry to Lois to Superman. And it was really cool seeing those backup stories because Zatara the Magician is actually Zatanna's father. So his first appearance goes all the way back to Action Comics issue 1 as well. He didn't make it in the front of the book, but he's there. That's insane to think that he shares that title with Superman. But I would go through the prices on this book like I would intend to do with this series with a lot of other comics. But the book sells for over $3 million. The last one in a 9.0 sold for over $3 million. This book is a record setter. Now, I know that first appearance of Spider-Man Amazing Fantasy 15 recently sold for like 3.6, but that was a higher grade book. Like, I have no doubt in my mind, you took that same grade of Superman and put it for sale next to that same grade of Spider-Man, it would blow it out of the water. But still, this is like the most historical comic book that ever existed in book for that point. Like, this is up there. This is like the holy grail of comics. So just to own a page of it would be amazing, but to own a page of it costs thousands of dollars as well. So there are numerous reprints of it that have even gained a lot of value over time, like from the sleeping bag reprint to the safeguard reprint to the 50-year anniversary, the post office, the Millennium Edition, the loot crate. I also have there's two more on the way to me right now. I'll be unboxing them later on the channel, but I think they're the final two that I'm missing. The only thing left to do is start rolling up my sleeves, going hunting, and hoping to God I come across a barn with an Action Comics #1 first print in it. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I appreciate you checking it out. Leave a comment below. Was the inside of Action Comics #1 exactly what you expected? Was it vastly different? And I want to give a big thank you, as always, to the channel members. If you see anybody on this list that you don't recognize, be sure to look them up on YouTube or Instagram. A lot of these people are putting out content on one or both of those platforms. Fantastic people. And if you want to consider becoming a member of the Legion, look down there below to that blue button that says join. Click on that and follow on through with all those steps. And until next time, guys, as always, I'm Mark, but we are Legion.